Everybody, welcome to the earliest alert. Brian Good with you guys, and I'm going to break down this more of an earliest alert than storm talk today. We'll cover thunderstorm potential, but in general, we're looking at some more tropical type of downpours, and then really kind of a wet scenario for the rest of the month that is trying to develop. And I'll explain that setup in just a second, which is good because we could use some rainfall considering the pollen count. Here's an updated look at the numbers. Tree pollen, of course, in the high category, grass in moderate, mold in the low category. So the sneezing will continue until we get a front to move in and some rainfall, and it's on its way, but not today. In fact, the severe threat today, you saw it go by really quick, kind of arcing around us to our north. I'll show you why that's the case. A good example of that in a second. And then tomorrow, most of the energy will be with little lows that are traveling around the ridge. That little low will travel from around Chicago today to roughly the mid-Atlantic states tomorrow around us. And then once we get into Wednesday, nobody's outlooked. In general, the severe threat is going to become very isolated, not organized for the remainder of the week, it looks like, as we get more tropical. Now, here's a look at the instability, just a snapshot of later on today. We should be pretty capped here in the Ohio Valley. Here's Louisville right there. I know it's hard to see Milwaukee. Around Chicago, though, about 5,000. I mean, very unstable on capes. In that area, a lot of energy there, and they're right on the edge of the stronger wind shear. So there's going to be certainly a busy radar look to Illinois today, in Illinois and Iowa, into parts of northern Indiana. It's going to be a little busy, and busy to the west, too, around Kansas City. So, again, all around us. So the heat is our big story. Record high today is 90. Forecast I've got in now is 92. We're already at 76 degrees now, and we'll actually have an update on that here in just a second. In fact, I can dial in now. Hold on 1 second. And give you guys an update on where we stand on that. Record today is 90. Set back in 1962.
002. Remarks. Density
record tomorrow is 92 degrees. Set back in 1900. And I don't know if we'll get to that one. That one looks to be safe for right now. Due to cloud cover, maybe some thunderstorms around. Here's the new number.
Sky condition clear. Temperature 26 Celsius.
Okay.
2.18 Celsius.
So we're at 79 right now in Louisville as of 8:51 this morning. So warming up pretty quick. So we're about to cross 80 degrees before we can get to 10 o'clock, it looks like, this morning. All right, now another thing that's going to be in our favor is when we look at the wind shear in the next few days. Here's a benchmark, roughly about 40 knots, what I like for this time of the year for sure. And notice we're certainly below that. It's not to where there's no shear. There's some. The thing is, this is going to be more instability based. Anything that can produce severe weather warnings, and that's going to be based on the amount of heating we'll get the next couple of days. But once you get into a tropical scenario, your weather sounding, and I'll show you one once we get a little closer, but the atmosphere is fairly saturated, top down, so you really don't get a lot of damage and wind potential out of that. You want to have some dry pockets somewhere along the layers if you want to produce some damage and wind. So you become very saturated. So it becomes more of a heavy rain scenario that can develop, and in some cases you don't get a whole lot of lightning either that can develop either. So that's why the severe threat is not going to be overly high the rest of the week. But the next couple of days, we will still have enough heating involved that we got to watch out for pulse-type severe weather that can develop. A few warnings for hail and some damaging winds briefly. Okay, so that's the setup on the severe side of things. Let's talk about how things are looking as we head through the next couple of days. Notice we got a fairly quiet setup now. We're already active in Illinois and Indiana. That's round one. The next little impulse, you can see it back into Omaha. Heading their way later today. That'll kick up the severe weather. Even some heating starting to develop ahead of that, allowing for that 5,000 instability joules per kilogram that you saw earlier. Meanwhile, for us, it's going to be about how things are going to time out with that boundary that's arcing around us now, begins to sink more to the south. Now, today we're fine. In fact, the hot weather is going to be the headline. Lower 90s we go. Tonight, now, a couple areas of thunderstorms to watch on the leading edge, where, again, we're going to have severe weather try to develop here and up here. Both of these will produce an outflow, if you will, a little burst of wind from them. The thunderstorms will fade out. The wind will last maybe 40 miles longer than the rain will, and then it's done. Two of those areas are still showing up in the high-res models that I'm indicated. One to our west, later this evening that'll fade out one to our north, and you can see this as I advance it. Here's the one to the west. West Kentucky fades out, and here's the one in Indiana right here that fades out during the overnight. So at this point, we're not going to go with rain. I'm going to keep in a very small 5% chance for those of you in Jasper up to Seymour. They could get some rain out of that if it were to hold together. Right now, though, again, the atmosphere looks to be warm enough aloft to prevent that. Okay, now advancing it into Tuesday. Now, this is a little different scenario. Now we got the boundary working its way more to the south, and we've got a couple of those outflows that came through for tonight and early tomorrow. So there's a little more of a trigger to work with. Nothing great or outstanding, but enough that we can't run a few thunderstorms tomorrow. But still, when we're sunny, we're going to be hot. And that's why the record is iffy. Got us so short of it now at 91. Then we likely will see the radar remain active at times even after sunset. Now we're getting into an unstable setup even at night, and it will just depend on how the boundaries lay out to whether or not we see thunderstorms Wednesday morning or night. It's too early to call. I'll keep the chance in, and we'll hopefully be able to narrow that down more once we get closer. But potential is there. In fact, as the boundary sinks to the south, our next issue is going to be the tropical low that could develop into something near Florida. It's trying to. The next name, or the first name on the list for the season, is Alberto. We'll see if it can get going or not. But the moisture is going to aim itself more east of 65 than west. But it's certainly going to impact the Smoky Mountains, but it will throw back some moisture our way. Heavy downpours, tropical downpours, gradually developing, increasing Wednesday, certainly Thursday. And even into Friday, this will be around mainly to the east, though, on Friday. And then we'll see how much of this can try to pull away, because it's a very slow-moving weather pattern, guys. So I know you all have a lot of plans for the weekend. If we can get this to pull away quick enough, we can get a break in here right there for the weekend. It's not much of one, because another front's moving in, another system. So that's the question mark. Is this bad boy here, this tropical setup for Thursday, Friday, is it going to stall and slow down? If that's the case, then the one that's already approaching for next week is going to blend in with it, and we're not going to get much of a break at all. So the rain chance, I got to keep it in for the weekend. I'll keep it lower than what is happening for the end of the week, but keep in mind that if the slower train continues to develop or anything, we'll have to change that. I'll be optimistic for now, but optimism hasn't worked well for me this year. Looking at one of our models indicating over the next 10 days in general, we see the core of the heaviest of rain. This is all frontal stuff here and here. This is all tropical. That path of that low, you can see where it arcs to the north and east and combines with the front. So the more west you are, the least amount of rainfall you'll get the next 10 days or so. The more east, the heavier. But Louisville's look to be right there on the edge of that. And looking ahead, it's all depends on how this high sets up shop here in the Atlantic and any weaknesses in the high that can develop, because this is a setup still for the tropics and the Caribbean to get going. It's not unusual for early June standards, late May, early June, to get homegrown activity in the Caribbean and the Gulf. Fairly common, actually, to have it happen. We'll see what develops. GFS is still gun home the idea of Memorial Day weekend, something popping. Right now, it's still isolated on that idea. But as far as whether or not it would impact us, I can't tell you that, because we have so many different cold fronts moving through that each time something tropical would try to come north, if it sensed a cold front, it would get pushed out to sea pretty quick. So I can't tell you if there would impact our area with rainfall, but I can tell you that it's a pattern for at least development of the tropics. Yes, that is there for late May. We'll see how it all looks coming up for tomorrow. Have a good day, guys.